Listen, your prank calls aren't gonna scare me, pal, okay? Something's been bothering me, and it always has since my grandma told me. The cops said Peter did it. And for years, my grandma said the same, but I think she started to have doubts. Who the hell is this?
What's going on, everybody? So tonight's a very special occasion. If you guys have been following the channel, we put out a review for It's Me, Billy, a Black Christmas fan film the other day. And, while generally we all love the film, we did voice a few concerns. And Dave is now here like a disappointed father to tell us how wrong we are. So, special guest, co-director, co-writer, and co-producer of It's Me, Billy, Dave McRae. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. My goal today, I have one goal, is to bring Chad's 3 out of 5 to a 3.5 out of 5. If I can get a 3 to move to a 3.5, this will be a huge success. This will be a huge success. Maybe even a 3 to a 3.2.
Ooh.
I think we're in good shape.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this. I got a few questions on myself. I think Destiny has a few, and I'm sure the chat will have some later on as well. What is that?
Here.
It's my
like something under the rib, I think.
Is it your skin under the rib?
It's my Dexcom. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a few questions that you've answered a million times already, and yes, I want to plug this. Dave and Bruce just did a 3-hour show the other day over on Dave's channel, and they pretty much answered everything I wanted to know. So thanks for that.
That's okay. The more spots, the more channels, and the more spots where those answers are, the better. So there you go.
I'll just start at the beginning there. What was it that made It's Me, Billy come into your guys' head? Like, were you guys sitting there like watching the movie like, hey, you know what? Or was it more like, oh, that 2019 sucked, we got to fix this? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, no, it didn't really have anything to do with the 2019 film. It had everything to do with, I turned 40 in 2019, and I've spent 20 years in the entertainment industry, most of that time on the voiceover side of the business, but I did go to school back in the late 90s for radio, television, and film. I've made little Halloween shorts on my channel, but nothing that would be considered professional or anything to that degree. I've wanted to finally you turn 40 and, you're not old, but you're not, young. You're kind of, hitting that middle point sort of. And you kind of think, well, I really want to sort of finally do something on a legit level. And I've never really utilized the resources and the connections that I have working in the business to be able to do that. And Bruce, of course, works boots on the ground in the business. He's the he's the national manager of education and training at William F. White International in Toronto. And White's is Canada's largest distributor of lighting and grip gear in the country. So when Hollywood comes up to Canada, whether they are in Vancouver or Toronto, which of course is the two big mecca centers for that kind of stuff, 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, there are competitors. They will go to White's to rent their lighting and grip gear. And they also have a great camera department as well. So he's boots on the ground doing that every day, all day. So we wanted to sort of combine our efforts and do a short film. But, what short film we wanted to do, I don't know. So I was watching Black Christmas one night, not with the intention of doing something with that. Right. But I hadn't seen it in a few years, and I was watching it, and it ended. And of course, I do think it has one of the greatest endings of all time. Absolutely. It doesn't need a sequel. The ambiguity is fantastic. But I thought, I wonder And I'm very aware of the whole, out there that the Billy makes a phone call after every death, and there's the insinuation that, of course, the phone is ringing. He probably came down and killed Jess. I'm very aware of all that. Of course, it's not conclusive. We don't know. Even Bob Clark said he kind of wanted to make a sequel. Anyway, so I thought to myself, why not do Black Christmas? It's a Canadian movie shot in Toronto. We're Canadian in Toronto. There's a romanticism around that. And what if we could do it, but do it legit, do it, you would watch it and it's a full-on studio quality film. And so that's kind of how it began. And then it was, I think 2 weeks later that Blumhouse announced that they were going to do one.
Of course.
So it was, yeah, no, we had it first, but I was a little angry because obviously they have a lot more money than we do. Mm-hmm. So, I was thinking, oh God, and what if it's good? God damn it, they got to it first. You know what I mean? Well, thankfully, it didn't really go that well. So that worked in our favor. But anyway, that's sort of believe it or not, that's the ballpark of kind of how it came to be.
Okay. Destiny, did you want to ask anything? No? Okay. Chad, you got anything?
Nothing, Destiny?
Not a thing.
I'm still nauseous.
Beautiful.
Well, that does happen when I go on shows. Anyway, go ahead.
Exactly.
So you guys shot it in Toronto?
Yeah, we rented all of our gear from, there's two places we rented our gear from White's in Toronto and Habibi Films in Toronto as well, which is, they supplied us the Ronin gimbal, which is the big thing that goes over our DP, and it's like for all intents and purposes, it's a Steadicam, but it's not. Yeah. So no, we actually shot it. We wanted to shoot it in Toronto, and there are mansions in this area where we could have shot. But of course, location, it's like real estate. Being in Toronto, fourth largest city in North America, it's a pretty expensive city. One of the most expensive, actually, in the continent. And so the price was just too much per day. So I found this other location, this other house in a little town called Almonte, Ontario, which is about 4.5 hours from Toronto. It's about 40 minutes outside of Ottawa, Ontario, which is our nation's capital. That's like our Washington. And just a little town, beautiful town. They've shot tons of films up there. And I saw this house and I thought, my God, it looks spectacular. I got to get in touch with these people. And it's not cheap, of course, but it's cheaper than shooting in Toronto. Yeah. So we did a location scout and we fell in love with it. And shout out to John and his wife who own the place, and they've been tremendous. And we were allowed to shoot there, not for free, of course. This is a business, but certainly it was cheaper than shooting right in the heart of Toronto.
Right. That's a good segue into my next question is, how do you guys break everything down and figure out exactly how much you guys need to raise for the crowdfunding? Be like, okay, this is the budget that we need. How do you can you talk about that process a little bit? Yeah,
well, it comes down to your script, right? And when you, at least you should, at the very least, when you are putting a budget together, you're not arbitrarily, I think we're going to need, 40,000, it shouldn't be like that, because then if you raise that, you might have overraised, which, can be good because then you have contingency, which you can use. But if you undervalue, then you're kind of like, I guess we have to launch another one. And then it kind of looks weird. You know what I mean? Why are you doing another one if you have, so no, it's based on the script. And when you have a script and you have a location and you know how many actors you want and you know what you want to shoot on and what the crew is going to be, how much, how many crew members you're going to have and, how much that may cost, it's always going to be a ballpark. It's never going to be down to the finest, cent, but it's going to be as close as you can possibly get. How much is it going to cost to shoot here for a week? How much is it going to cost to put 17 people up in a motel? How much is it going to cost to feed these people for a week, right? 3 meals, 6 days. How much is it going to cost to rent the gear? How much is it going to cost to rent the trucks? How much is it going to cost for production insurance? How much is it going to, all this. And then you come to a ballpark figure, and then that's the figure that you roll with. And you do that by calling these people, right? You call, the catering company, and you say, here's what we're doing, here's how much would it be, which is what we did. We have 7 days, we have 17 people, we want 3 meals a day, and snacks and coffee, because we're doing 4 nights of shoots, so you have to have coffee there, and you want this and all that, and then of course you contact our production insurance was through Front Row Production Insurance in Toronto. They're a major hub. They have offices in Toronto, LA, all over the place. And of course, we tell them, here's what we're doing. Here's how long we're shooting. Here's how many people there are. Here's the budget, all that kind of stuff. So it really is. It's a process that if you are looking to shoot a film professionally, which is what we're doing, you have to go through the stages of what a professional film would do. And we have to do that. And of course the equipment has to be insured, and then our DP, shout out to our amazing DP, of course, Greg Bennett, who's a 2-time CSC award nominee, amazing guy, who just shot the hell out of this movie. And again, we came to him and we said, we showed him the script and we had long talks and things like that. And then of course, we had ideas of what we wanted to shoot on, but he's the DP. And he has over 25 years of experience. And it's like, what do you want to shoot this on, Greg? You want to shoot on the Red? You want to shoot on the Airy? And he chose to shoot on the Airy Mini, which of course is, it's fantastic. They shoot Hollywood films on this stuff, and he shot on it all. So we were very pleased to shoot on the Airy Mini for sure. And but that's how it comes down, is that you have a script and then you go, what do we need to do to bring this to life? And you got to think about things that the average filmmaker doesn't, if you're just guerrilling it, right, and you're just kind of going out and doing with your friends and going out into the woods, that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Right. But if you are renting from rental houses and you are hiring professional actors and you are hiring crew that do this all the time, and you've got a DP who's doing this all, you are going the professional route, there are things as producers that you have to abide by and that you have to check, because you are now entering a different territory. This isn't just you and your buddies out there having fun. This is, you are hiring professionals. Right. And therefore it becomes, it's a short film. It's a fan film in subgenre, sure. But it's as professional as it comes. If it was called something else, we would have gone through the same process. So you have to do your due diligence on it for sure.
Okay. Chad, do you want to add anything to that? Because you're in the fan film business technically too. So you have a little bit of experience. Is that kind of
yeah, but I'm not in charge of all that Indiegogo stuff. That's all them. I'm just, I'm everything else. I don't worry about that type of stuff. I just put on the mask and run around, man. I'm not crunching numbers and all that.
All right. Destiny, back to you. Anything you want to?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
What was your favorite scene of the movie?
My favorite scene of the movie or my favorite scene to shoot?
Go both.
I think my favorite scene, there's a lot of them, but I think my favorite scene is probably the dining room scene. And I think that because Greg and Nikita, our gaffer, and Nas, our key grip, and shout out to the crew again, to Stuart and to Luke as well, the lighting team that just really lit this scene so well, and the performances were so good, and it was fun to shoot because at the beginning of that scene, you get the tail end of their fun, and they're joking and they're talking about, guys, and they're having fun. And then there's that switch, there's that change, and as Sam begins to talk about her grandmother, there's that change. And there's that moment where we're in 3 shots. So we are medium close-ups on Sam, Emma, and Justine, and we're bouncing between these 3 shots. And then the shot changes. when the tone changes and the shot changes to across the table. It's the first time we've seen it from this perspective. The only other time that we saw it from a different perspective was the opening of the scene. We were tracking on a Dana dolly across the opening of the doorway, and you see them sort of talking there and talking about Mark and Chris, and what's his name, Chris, having this fun stuff, right? How girls talk, how you girls are, and but it was so good. It was so good, and that was actually ad-libbed. We actually had told. Now we shot that opening of that scene probably about 5 times, so I could have taken. The gist of the scene was still the same, but the approach was a bit different. Like, it was always about Mark and Chris, but I could have taken one of the other takes and it would have been slightly different. But we wanted a very ad-lib improv kind of just natural feel, because these girls are so talented. I knew they could do it. We knew they could do it. They did it. They pulled it off. We were really happy. And but other than that tracking shot to establish where we are, we go in for the 3 medium shots and we stay there. We don't cut away from that until the tone changes. And then we're on the other side of the table and we're tracking across the table. And that's not a zoom. That's actually a jib shot. The camera is actually tracking across the table. And we're getting closer and closer to Victoria. And as she's talking about, something's always bothered me though. And it always has since my grandma told me. And then the music begins to kind of come up a bit there, and that really is sort of the switch of the film. The first half of the movie is really kind of like the psychological drama with a lot of exposition and sort of character moments. And then that's where it begins to change. There's a tonal shift there. So I think for me, that would probably be my favorite scene in the movie, I think.
Nice.
Chad, you got anything?
Well, while you're thinking, I have something I'd like to address, because I did watch your review, and you know what? It's funny to watch these, because when you watch people talking about something that you put out there, it's always fascinating, right? To see how it affects certain people and what they say and what they don't say and what maybe they get or they don't get, or like whatever the case is. And there was something that Chad said that I thought was kind of funny. And he said, what was it? It was about the line that walked through the house. Says, I didn't think it was going to be cold out. I'd say, what do you think it's going to be cold? And I, as somebody who lives now, I don't know where you guys live. I know that Destiny, you're in Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you sometimes get snow, but it's kind of weird, if you do. It's very, very weird if you do, right? Where are you, Chad?
I'm in California.
Okay, yeah. Well, that explains it.
About 2 hours north of LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
what's snow?
What's snow? And whereabouts are you, Chris? You're in.
I'm in Ohio. I'm in the Midwest, so we.
Okay, so you're in the same time zone. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so as a Canadian who lives in Toronto, and we get 4 seasons up here, obviously, contrary to popular belief, it is not winter all the time. If you live in the Midwest of the States, or if that is like being here, but you can. For those of you that don't know, it can be snow. There can be snow. It can be a nice, but not that cold out. You know what I mean? And it can be fine. And then, of course, so you dress for the day, let's say in the morning, and you get up and you walk, and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And then as the day progresses, the temperature continues to drop, and it gets colder and colder and colder. And then by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, geez, I didn't think it was going to be this cold out. And so the line actually is very real. It actually is. Anybody who gets 4 seasons knows that, if it snows, it's not like it's like all the time. You know what I mean? It can be pretty mild. I mean, to a Californian, it might be like fucking crazy. But I had a good chuckle with that, because I was like, I wonder where he lives.
Yeah, California.
You certainly can have snow, and it be not like warm, but it's not cold per se. You know what I mean? It's chilly, but it's not cold.
Well, like I said in the review, as I'm watching it, I'm looking at the snow, but I'm looking at the sun too. And right before the line was said, I was like, man, I wonder if it's actually cold Like, because when it snowed here in like January. It completely fucked Texas up. Like, the whole state was out of power. Like,
right. Well, Texas isn't, I mean,
we weren't built for that, like, at all.
I was just going to say, that's right.
So it was terrible. But it was so cold to where, like, I would go outside and not feel how cold I was until I would come back inside.
Right.
So whenever I was watching, I was like, man, I wonder if they're, like, actually cold or if it's just there's snow there.
It's the kind of thing where I think if you are, I mean, yes, it was cold. I mean, it wasn't like freezing, or the girls wouldn't be able. None of us.
Their lips will be blue and everything.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's not like it was minus 90 or something. But I think it's the kind of cold where when you step outside, it was like, oh, it's kind of, it's kind of chilly. But if you stand out there and you're just standing out there for 30 minutes, you get colder. You know what I mean? Because you're just standing there and you're not doing much. And of course, when you're sitting in a car and you're just waiting, when you're shooting a movie, there's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of, setting up. You can spend, an hour and a half to set up a shot that's going to take you, 3 minutes to shoot. And so there's a lot of waiting. And sometimes we would have the girls wait in, we had a Suburban on the side of the road. So they'd wait in there, or they would wait inside the house while we set up a shot for the car. And then we would radio in to our PA to get them, to bring them out so they're nice and warm. So, but it wasn't freezing. It wasn't unbearable. It wasn't unbearable or anything like that. No.
There, does that make you feel better, Chad?
That was a funny line. That was a funny line.
Line's forgiven. We're at 3.1 out of 5 now.
All right. We've gone up. That's good. I like it. We've gone up.
All right.
Gone up.
The man, Frank Riker, thanks for the $5 super chat. He says, Dave, I love the movie, but the version I saw was dubbed in Canadian. Is that normal?
Yes, it is completely normal. It was dubbed in Canadian. That's really witty, Frank. That's really good. That's really good.
Thanks, Frank. And we'll get to your guys' questions in the chat in a little bit. Destiny, back to you. Anything else you want to?
I don't know. I'm nervous. Please stop calling back to me.
Okay, fine.
Well, let me,
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just gonna address address something, and maybe what I say will spark some some ideas for
3.2,
some questions. Yeah, or a 3.2. That's right. So one of the things that we kept hidden, and we did this deliberately, and we talked about this, of course, on the stream with Bruce a few days ago. A few days ago. I sound like I had an accent there. A few days ago.
I noticed that.
Did you know that? Yes. Hello. Yes. Mm-hmm. A few days ago. I think and we knew that this was a risk. We knew it was a risk, but we were confident in the quality that we were putting out in terms of the production value and the presentation, that we took that risk anyway. So it's no surprise now that It's Me, Billy ends on a massive, maybe two massive cliffhangers.
Yes.
One sort of outdoes the other. And it was designed that way on purpose. And the reason why it was designed that way on purpose is because we knew from the very beginning that, we wanted this to be episodic. And we wanted it to very much kind of like what Vincent did with Never Hike Alone, where it ends kind of on this, or even Never Hike in the Snow ends that way as well.
Yeah.
Well, the problem when you aren't a studio and you're not Netflix, right? You don't have the money, the studio backing, is that you have to, when you're crowdfunding, you have to you have to shoot these things in little sort of stages. When you are producing this level of quality, right? When you are producing studio level quality, we can do that, but we have to do it in stages. If we were just shooting on our phones or our, DSLRs, and we weren't giving any sort of care for the craftsmanship of filmmaking, then we could have 10 episodes done by now. But when you are dishing out this level of production value, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And so you have to do it in stages. But it was designed that if you think of it like it's not designed in a way where there could be like 8 episodes or something like that.
Right.
It really is designed just for like 2 episodes. And if you were to put them together, you would maybe have like a feature length film. There's probably another 40-minute movie still to come in there, right? That sort of answers all these things. Right. But it was designed that way on purpose. And so a lot of the lingering questions that you have, well, wait a minute, what the, Agnes, and she's in the basement, but how does she do? Yeah, that's the point. And if this was Netflix and they had backed us, you would have already been on to the next epispisode.
Absolutely, of course, yeah. I'd be right on.
Like, wow.
Very true.
And the credits are rolling, and you would have been like, next, skip intro, go. You know what I mean? And that's what you would have done. Because Netflix has millions of dollars, and they spend millions of dollars on one episode, and they are able to produce, 7 or 8 episodes all in one shot. Whereas for us, we couldn't do that. So what you do, which is smart, is that you create one and say, hey, look at this. Do you want more? And you use that as a catalyst to drive the hopefully to be able to make more. So yes, it is designed episodically, not episodically in the sense where there's going to be like 9 more episodes in a season. It probably really only be 1 more, but it was designed that way. So it's not a self-contained. We would never end a movie. If It's Me, Billy. If It's Me, Billy was designed to not be episodic, and we just wanted to end it, we would have ended it on the shot of Emma in the back seat. That's where we would have ended it.
Right. That would have been perfect.
Tracking in, cuts to black, and it's like, I guess they got them. I guess that's it. They must have got them. You know what I mean? But we wanted to take it that step further, where they go, oh, I guess that's it. What? Here, what's going on here? What's happening? Boom, and you cut in, and it's what the hell is this? And then grandma, and you're like, what? I need the next episode. So that's it was designed that way on purpose. And listen, I've received a lot of people going, I don't like that at all. And then some people are like, it's great. When are we going to see the next one? So but we knew it may be an area of contention. But we took the risk.
Well.
Is that helping out?
I respect that.
3.2 yet, Chad?
Yeah, we're at 3.2. I want to talk about Billy's Tantrum.
Sure.
Personally, I think hearing it and not seeing it is more scary, but I get it. You guys taking risks, I get it. So let's talk about his tantrum a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So in talking about Billy's tantrum, I think we need to talk about Billy as a whole. And, when you are making and we touched on this on the stream on Monday night as well, is that our approach to this was, look, I mean, the way Billy was in the original is fantastic. You know what I mean? The POV shots, you only see his hands, you just see his shadow and all that kind of stuff. And as a standalone movie, it's great. It's that, because we don't need any more. That's it. When you are making sequels, by default, sequels should, at the very least, progress character development and story forward. Now, how much forward you go is left up to the writers and the creators, but it should, at the very least, be progressing forward. I should feel like I am receiving new information, and also information, if you do have plans to keep going, that sets up other things. With the character of Billy, if we were making a Black Christmas fan film that was just our own version of the original movie, you know what I mean? Sometimes you see fans do that. They get together with their friends and they make their own Black Christmas fan film or their own Elm Street fan film. And, Betty's playing Nancy and John's playing, and all that. And that's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. If we were doing that, then we would absolutely have done exactly that. We would have honored what they did in the original, because it's our own version of that. But when you are making a film of this caliber and this quality and pushing the envelope and going forward, we wanted to show Billy in a way that he hasn't been seen, but yet at the same time not show him completely either. Because something in my mouth here. The only character development that you can really do with a character like Billy is through the lens, because you don't want to give anything to his backstory per se. I mean, you might throw in little tidbits there through, the phone calls or whatever the case is, but it's not like you're going to reveal his, it's going to open up and it's going to be this gigantic, big, open thing. He always must remain a mystery to some degree, because that's part of what makes that character so alluring. But at the same time, well, how do you develop this character without just doing the same thing over again? You know what I mean? So we wanted to kind of show Billy in ways that the audience hasn't seen it. We knew that hardcore fans, maybe even some non-hardcore fans would be like, oh, what? Because you've never seen him. Like you've never seen him from this perspective. And some people have often said, I had somebody that messaged me and said, you know, on my fifth watch, and I was like, your fifth watch? Holy Jesus. I mean, that's great. Thank you. But wow, I don't even think I've watched it 5 times. But they said that my issue is no longer with that. I think I see Billy. I think I just don't like I don't like being more objective and seeing him because when you look at how we lit him, we still kept him in shadow.
Right.
We still kept him in darkness, you know, creeping down the hallways. You got that POV shot in the attic. Yes, you have the, you know, the bare bulb there, which is an interesting aesthetic that we liked. It's just this bareness, this awkward contrast, this bulb, but he's still kind of in shadow. You don't really see him that well. You're never seeing his face, but it's a different perspective. It's character development through the lens.
Okay.
And if we didn't do that, then we would literally just be doing the same thing over again. And then it's kind of like, where do we go from there and then if we do a third part, do we do that again? And we don't, it's always through that. And that's okay. And I think that's sort of what happens with Michael Myers as well. Michael Myers is a different beast than Billy, and I think some people were surprised in the way that we handled Billy because I'm Mr. Mood and Atmosphere. I talk about anonymity, enigma, Michael keeping in the shadows, all that kind of stuff. But Michael has a supernatural element to him. Billy doesn't. Right. So there's a difference there with Michael. Not that you shouldn't keep Billy in the shadows, but it's a bit different. It's a bit of a different beast with Myers than it is with Billy. So when it came to his temper tantrum, you are right. I mean, Chad is right. I mean, to just hear that and not see it is scary. And that's what you heard in the original. And even in our film, when Sam is racing down the stairs, you can hear him upstairs having this, it's like, you know, and smashing, like, what the hell? It's great stuff.
Yeah.
But we wanted to kind of show you what that looked like. You know, what does this look like? Because in the original, you actually do see him having a temper tantrum, but it's through the POV. He's kicking over the rocking horse. He's pushing this away. You just don't see him. Well, what is it? What would that look like if we were walking around, we opened a door, oh shit, we stumbled upon this guy in the rocking chair and we're frozen and we're just watching him and he's caressing this doll and we're still, and he starts freaking out because it's a static shot. It's not moving, you know, and that's, you know, in our mind, that was us just kind of there, because at any given moment, he could be there just going like this and let's cock his head and look at you, right? If he's, you know, if he thinks you're there and he's just there, you know, and we're there. And then all of a sudden he has this freak out. And we're like, what the fuck? It's like that Simpsons meme, Homer, where he like backs into the bush. You know? So it's like when the camera begins to track backwards, when he begins to sing little baby bunting, daddy's gonna hunt and it's tracking backwards. That's like us going, tiptoeing kind of back, like, I think we can get out of here now. You know, like kind of let's get out of this. It's like that window into this moment that nobody's ever seen before from this perspective. It's 50 years later and we've walked in on this, you know, to actually kind of see that. And when he has his temper tantrum and you see him freaking out, it's like, whoa, like this is, I remember that, you know what I mean? But I haven't seen it from this perspective before. And where is he? You know, what's going on here? You know, and for us, the character of Billy, it's 50 years later. Yeah. So our thought was, where would he be today, cognitively? Be today? If he wasn't able to function in society 50 years ago, he certainly can't function in society today. You know what I mean? So anyway, I could go on and on, of course, but that's sort of the believe it or not, a ballpark nutshell version of sort of the conversations that we have when we're in the, you know, in the actual writer's room talking about this and how do we want to show Billy without showing Billy? How can we develop this character without giving backstory and really taking away the mystery? However, we do understand that it's a risk and some people are going to watch it and go, not for me. We understand that. And that's like, we totally get it. But that was nothing in this movie. No choice was arbitrarily made.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to watch that a couple more times to watch that and kind of sink it in let it sink in a little bit. But personally, I think if that wasn't there, but I mean, obviously, I didn't talk about it in the review, but I did love how he looked in the bedroom scene. Where he kind of comes in, it's just you barely see him there, and he just kind of creeps over, and he's just so like that. I loved. I did love that. That was great. Me personally, I'll have to watch it a couple more times and let it soak in a little bit and see if,
of course,
100%.
And look, I mean, sometimes, and it's okay if it never resonates, right? I mean, it's okay. Sometimes those are things where, and I think it's unexpected as well, right? Because we wanted to thrust you into that moment. It's a tracking shot along, Justine's bed. She's asleep. You hear kind of creaking in the distance. Like you're like, what is that? Is that a chair? What is it? And all of a sudden, we cut in. We're like, I think it's unexpected for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But in reality, if this wasn't Billy and this was some other character, you're not really seeing anything at all. You're just seeing this guy slumped in a rocking chair, silhouetted against this bare bulb. It's just a way that he's never been seen before. But we needed to develop him somehow, without going too far. We could have cut in on his face. We could have showed the doll and then showed his face and him going, "Oh, hello." We could have done all that kind of stuff, right? But we didn't want to do that.
I say I'm glad you didn't do that. Honestly,
no,
I love the way that you guys decided to use him. The long hair, just like that's what he said in the review. Like it covers up his face enough to where it still works and still.
Well, that's it too, and I know. And I know there's a lot of people that make comparisons to other characters and other horror movies and things like that. But again, we're not making those decisions. We're not thinking, hey, this looks like so-and-so in The Devil's Rejects, or hey, this looks like so-and-so in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's do that. That's not, no, I'm just saying, but that's not why we're making that decision. Our decision from a writer point of view is, where would this character be today? And if he's cognitively decaying over these decades, he's unlikely to be sitting there in a pair of Nikes and a clean haircut with a goatee. I mean, that's not how we imagined him. And so the representation of his physical presence in terms of the long silver hair, which was the actor's real hair, by the way, shout out to Brian Charles Peter, amazing dude.
Nice.
And so we love that about the character. People can make their associations if they want, but that's not the reason why we made the character that way. We're thinking story and development first. And we think Billy 50 years later, he's if he was gone in 1974, he's gone now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
okay.
And another thing that I brought up in the review, he's always had like a childlike mentality.
He has, yes. So the temper tantrum and the childlike thing is very part of that. I mean, even when he sings Little Baby Bunting in the original film, it's Little Baby Bunting. You go back to the 74 film, and he's right up there. In our film, of course, that is actually Brian singing that, not me. That actually is him, because we wanted to we wanted to utilize his more of the baritone of his voice, and it's different, right? Where would he be today? Would he still be singing it like that, or would he be singing it differently? And if you notice, it's almost like he's singing it. It's a way that calms him down. He has this freak out and he's losing it, and he smashes the doll and he kicks over the box, and then he picks up the doll again, almost as if he's like apologizing to it, right? Like he's there and he sits back down. He sings this song as if it's sort of, comforting to him. But again, that was, he's always had the cognitive ability of a child, you know what I mean? Even going back to the original.
All right, I'm gonna grab the super chat real quick, and then we'll get to Destiny. Question for Dave: was Olivia Hussey originally planned to make an appearance? Can you reveal if she will make an appearance in the future? You probably can't answer that one.
I can kind of answer it. We had reached out to Olivia Hussey. Yes, the plan was to get Olivia Hussey to be in It's Me, Billy. We would have loved at the very end, instead of just Grandma, it would then, the camera would then cut and turn, and you would see Olivia Hussey. And that was the original plan. And we had reached out to her through her rep. Her rep, I think, is her husband, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if she's repped by any of the big agencies in Los Angeles at the moment. I couldn't find that. But I had reached out to her husband. She is aware. I don't know if she's aware now of the film. I don't know if she's aware of the progress of the film, but when we launched our Indiegogo teaser and our Indiegogo campaign last July, almost a year ago, I believe somebody had tagged her in it, and she was aware of the project in its infancy. And I had tried to get in touch with her, but even if she had said yes, the logistics because of COVID would have been very difficult. Yeah. You know, she lives in LA, we're in Toronto, we'd have to fly her up, which is fine. I mean, all that is fine. You budget for things like that. But when she would, you know, if she were to come here, if she was interested and she wanted to do it and we could agree to something and she's all for it, let's fucking do this, it'd be amazing. Then there was the logistics of flying her to Canada. She would have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. It just wasn't practical, even if she had said yes. But we did reach out and we just didn't hear back. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that she wasn't interested. It could also be that her husband, being her representative, may have intercepted the email and been like, nah, I don't, this isn't, you know, whatever. Hey, babe, did you see this? Nah, I don't think I was, you know, whatever, right? Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But we did not hear back. We are hoping that Olivia Hussey, if she has a chance to see It's Me, Billy, I think we handled her character with class and with care. A lot of people have said that even though she was not in the movie, her character, you could feel her character's presence throughout the film, which I think is nice. So we're hoping that, you know, if the world can get back to normal and I mean, we're not ready to jump into the sequel yet, but hopefully in time, maybe we can get her to reprise her role. That's the dream. We would still love her to do that. If we can't, for whatever reason, she just ain't interested. She's just not into, I just don't want to do it.
It happens. Right.
Yeah. Then we will recast. You know, I mean, obviously we don't want to do that, but we will recast and we will take the same level of care, attention to detail and care of casting her granddaughter as we would in casting another version of her. So it's not going to be like she's going to be, you know, some blonde all of a sudden that's there. We're going to, and who's, you know, 30. I mean, we're going to take the same level of attention to care and hopefully maybe we'll be able to cast somebody that, you know, that makes people go, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That was great casting. You know what I mean? I could totally see it, you know, or something to that degree, but the goal is Olivia Hussey for sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
Destiny, back to you.
Oh, I wanted to ask about Agnes. Like, whenever y'all first started, like, discussing ideas, was Agnes always a part of the story, or was she just kind of like, maybe we'll add her, or did y'all want her, like, for sure to be a part of the story?
Yeah, Agnes was always a part of the story. Has nothing to do with the 2006 film. I think
I never got that, by the way.
And I stand and I stand to be corrected, but I think part of the reason why, and maybe this is, you know, I admit maybe this is my ignorance, but I have a feeling, it's just a feeling, that I think more people have seen the two, more I don't want to sound patronizing when I say this. I say younger people, but you know, it's not like I'm old. But I think more people have probably seen the 06 movie than have the 1974 film. So I think their association to the character Agnes is very much an association to that 06 movie.
Right.
Yeah. And they look at what they did with Agnes in there and they think, oh, well, that's where they got the idea, you know, and people have to understand and remember that Agnes being Billy's sister was actually not created in the 06 version. That actually is an inception from the 1974 movie. Yeah. Now, in the 1974 film, it is not outrightly said that they are siblings, but through that conversation, I mean, you hear him say all the time, Agnes, it's me, Billy, don't tell them what we did. Like, you know, you hear that a lot, especially when he's approaching Margot Kidder in bed. You hear him actually say those words. But also there's I'm paraphrasing, but there's something on the phone where he says, you know, I guess he's being his parents at that moment. He's like, you know, Billy, don't touch the baby. What did you do to Agnes? What did you do to Agnes, Billy? Like you hear him say those things. And Bob Clark Years later said that Agnes was, in his mind, was Billy's sister. And in his mind was somebody that Billy likely abused as a baby, sexually, physically, whatever the case is, probably killed her, maybe not, and probably murdered his whole family, or like, whatever the case is. And even though that part of the narrative doesn't wind up in the 74 film so blatantly obvious, as a director and as a writer, you have to know that. Even though those details may not wind up on screen, you have to know where you're going. It's one of the biggest mistakes that they made in Halloween 5, right? When the director brought in the Man in Black and they're like, so what is this? I don't know. The people who make Halloween 6 will, take care of it. That's not what you have to know. You have to know the point of this. Even though you're keeping it ambiguous, you have to know. So Agnes is really, her being Billy's sister is not an 06 invention. Has nothing to do with that. They just took that idea, like we did, and they went this way. So they made skin cookies, and Agnes will hire a dude to play him, and we'll have all this, and he's all this guy, and they did that. And we decided, well, instead of going that way with it, why don't we do this? But I think people are caught up with the idea of Billy's sister, and we do present, at the very least, circumstantial evidence that at the end of the movie that leads you to believe that they are somehow working together, that there's some sort of there. But now that isn't necessarily a Bob Clark inception. That definitely was an 06 thing that they did as well. But the idea of Agnes has nothing to do with 06, has nothing to do with 06. And I would like to believe that although it was a surprise for people, and some people may have thought that, 06, whatever, I think our introduction to her and our twist was I think much better than I think what they did in 06. I think it's more believable. It's more grounded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Carol, shout out to Carol Coltman, who plays her, who did a magnificent job. Nuanced.
She did great. Yeah.
She's just tremendous, and she's all on board to come back. So.
Oh, good.
Even Destiny mentioned it in the review. She's like, once she says, "You can call me Agnes" or something, I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
For me,
I love that. That was pretty good.
For me, the line that did it was me and my brother lived right down the road, and we're like,
Well, like I said, when she said, "Don't mention it," I wasn't like, "Oh, that's fucking Agnes." No, but I was like, "Don't mention it, huh?"
There's something up with you.
Like a little light bulb, just a tiny one, not a big one. But I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Right. Oh, that's another thing too. I want to address when you guys send your review. When she says, "Call me Agnes," and I think Chad said something like, Victoria just was like, "Yeah, okay. Yeah." But in reality, I get you. Look, everybody's going to interpret it in their own ways, right? But the intention of that scene is that Victoria is not really paying attention at all. I mean, she's just like, she's there in the seat, and she's just kind of going. Like, I mean, she's not like, it's not like she was like, okay, thank you. Yeah, sure, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, if she had said that, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, that's a little like, what is she doing, right? Yeah. But if you pay close attention to her performance, she's actually just going, and then Agnes says, "Now tell me what happened." And then she's like, like she just starts to completely break down again. But it's fascinating though to watch, and I sincerely mean this. It's fascinating to watch people's interpretations of what they see, and what you as a director and as a writer, what myself and Bruce were, what our intentions were, and what we were doing, and that's how we saw it. That's how we interpreted it anyway. But I agree, she's certainly not. She's not losing control in that moment when she says, "Please call me Agnes." But I don't believe Sam is really paying attention. I think she's just kind of, nodding her head like, she's kind of there. You know what I mean? But it's funny though. It was funny. It's funny. Not as funny as the winter remark, but still. Still funny.
Yeah, let's see. In the original 74 film, I always got the vibe, because it's pretty mysterious, that Billy had done something to Agnes and she was dead, like she was no longer alive. So when she shows up and it's me, Billy, I was like, she's still alive. Awesome. And kind of to piggyback off of what Destiny was asking. At what point into the story did you and Bruce decide we need to bring Agnes in right now. Like, what was that moment for you guys?
Very early on, actually. It had started like in a very early draft of the script. The film opens actually because we were hoping to get the original Black Christmas house, and the film actually opens on Sam walking down the street, and she walks up to the Black Christmas house, and she goes up to it, and she rings the doorbell, and Agnes opens the door, and she's a I think she was a real estate agent or something like that in a very early draft, and the house is being sold, and Sam wants to see the house before it's sold, again to get that closure. It's and the conversation that Sam ends up having with her two friends in the car in the actual film is really the conversation she has with Agnes at the beginning. Sort of. I mean, it's a bit different, obviously, but talking about my grandma is the one who survived the Belmont murders, and blah blah blah. And Mrs. Crane, of course, who doesn't introduce herself as Agnes at that moment, obviously like, oh wow, I was a big fan, and all that kind of stuff. Same kind of thing. So very early. And then we couldn't get the Black Christmas house, so then it changed to a diner, and then another draft of the script was going to open in a diner where the three girls are sitting in this booth having breakfast on their way up to the mansion, and the conversation you see in the opening of the car is what they have in the diner, and Agnes is there. She's a waitress. And she's their waitress, and she comes over and but very unassuming, but she does still have the unicorn brooch on her pin, on her shirt. And but she was going to play it straight, you know what I mean? And hopefully the audience, if we were able to shoot that, the audience would just think, oh, it's just, it's a throwaway character. She's the waitress. We're never going to see her again. Right. And then she shows up at the end in the car, and it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So, and then of course, because of COVID and everything up here, restaurants were open and then they were closed, and they were open and then they were closed, and they were open and then they were closed. It was just like a yin yang kind of thing. Not a yin yang, a yo-yo. And so we decided, we better rewrite the opening of this movie again, because when it comes time to go to camera, we're probably not gonna be able to shoot maybe we'll be able to shoot in a diner, but maybe not. Right. So we didn't want to take that risk. So we wanted to have a plan B. So the plan B was just to have it as a moment in the car on the side of the road, and start that way. So Agnes was always going to be in it from the very beginning. But again, it was not that we introduce Agnes. It's can we introduce Agnes in a way that feels not, feels mature, feels real. You know what I mean? As opposed to what they did in 06.
Okay. Flamethrower Fluff, thanks for the $5 super chat. In your mind, does she actually work at a hospital, or is it a cover story?
Oh, I can't talk about that.
If I were to make a guess, I would say, yeah, why not? Sure.
I can't talk about that.
She'd have access to some resources there. I don't know.
Spoiler territory.
Yeah. Chad, what do you guys think?
I did really enjoy the three girls, like their friendship when they were all together. I was very disappointed when they got split up, but that's just me.
So was I. No, I'm dead serious with you.
Oh, okay.
I'm dead serious with you. I have a story to tell you in a second, but you go ahead.
Okay. What did you have extra preparations for them to get?
I was going to ask
the chemistry, or did it just work out that way?
No. So what we did, and there's no real written rule to do this. You can sometimes, especially on indie shoots, you can when you're doing crowdfunding, you can crowdfund and then you go get what you need, which is usually how it works. Or you can bring people on board to help with the crowdfunding to entice people to donate. And we wanted to do it that way. We wanted to kind of cast first. The cast was under no illusions. They knew this was crowdfunded. They knew that, there's a possibility that we could not make this movie because we just don't make the money, or not make the money, but raise the funds. Right. But we wanted to cast early to show people how serious we were. and utilize that to really polish the Indiegogo campaign, have the cast there, get a, you know, professional DP on board, you know, just really kind of, well, these guys are serious, you know, and then make an Indiegogo teaser that can really entice people as well. So we cast very early, in end of February, beginning of March of 2020 is when we cast the 3 ladies. Agnes came about a month later, I think, and Billy didn't come till September. We actually had another actor that was on board to play Billy, but there was a bit of an issue, so we had to part ways. Nothing bad or anything like that. Just a matter of circumstance. Just kind of like,
Right.
okay, you know, whatever it is, right? Well, you know, we can't, you know, we can't do that or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and it worked out, because Brian, as soon as I saw this guy, I was like, that's Billy. That's the guy we need.
Mm-hmm.
So with the ladies, with Malika and Shelby and Victoria, not only are they obviously very talented, but they are, because we cast so early, it allowed them the opportunity to get to know each other as friends, you know, as best they could virtually. Now, obviously, we couldn't get together through the pandemic, so a lot of this was, you know, over Zoom and Skype and phone calls and texts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was funny. We found out after, was it during our first table read or after our first one? They told us, oh yeah, no, we talk all the time outside of like this. Like we're like,
that's
talking all the
great.
time.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think they even had like Zoom sessions where they had like wine and stuff like that, and we're getting to know each other. And they really got along well. Of course, they're in around the same age. I think Shelby's a bit old. I think Shelby's 27, if I'm not mistaken, or 28. And then Malika and Victoria are 25. So, but you know, for all intents and purposes, the same age. So obviously they get along well, and they can relate to each other, and that really helped as well. So that chemistry. So by the time we went to camera in November, they had already been, you know, hanging out, so to speak, virtually, of course, for like, you know, what, 7 or 8 months, you know, and talking and chatting and, you know, I mean, it'd be like, I mean, I'm meeting Chad for the first time now, but imagine if Chad and I were going to camera this, you know, let's say December, and we have these conversations like, you know, twice a week for the next 6 months. By the time you see us on camera, it's going to feel like, well, Chad and Dave have known each other for a fucking long time. You know what I mean? Because there's that natural chemistry that kind of you've built. So and they're good actors too. So obviously they, you know, are able to bring that believability to it. But no, there was a natural chemistry by just the process of casting them so early, which really helped. Because sometimes, you know, you get to set and you meet people you're working with, and it's the first day you've met them, and you got to pretend like you've known them for like 10 years. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, it was as genuine as it could be anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. It definitely showed up on film. Their
Agreed.
Friendship and bond.
I agree.
But to capitalize on that, well, you know, you're absolutely right. When I think it was the night before the Malika's death scene, the girls were hanging out at the dining room table, just hanging out. Because we actually, the great thing about this shoot was, and you don't always get this, is that it was essentially one location. So we actually slept at the house. And not everybody did, of course. Most of the crew was up at a motel down the street. But myself, Malika, Shelby, Victoria, Bruce, Brian, who played Billy, Greg, our DP, we all slept at the house. And so what was great about that is we could leave things set up. And any production knows that when you are shooting, one of the biggest time wasters per se is you always have to not time but you know you have to factor in set up and tear down time.
Right.
So if you have a 12-hour day, you know, and you're on the clock, you have to remember, well, but there's also when we also have to pack everything up at the end of the day too, if we're not actually staying here, and that can take, you know, an hour and a half. So the great thing about this is that at the house, we could just leave things set up. I mean, we put the camera away, obviously. I mean, it's like $100,000 camera, for God's sake. So, you know, it's not like we're just like, you know, leaving it in the corner, but certain things like dolly track and jibs and things like that, we could leave set up because we're going to come back to it in the morning. So that was great. That was a plus. But anyway, so the girls were hanging out at the dining room table. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're eating or playing cards or something. And we had wrapped for the evening. And I came down and I said to them, I said, I'm feeling a little sad. And this is a true story. I'm not no hyperbole here whatsoever. I said, I'm feeling a little sad, guys. And they're like, oh, why? What's going on? Are you okay? And I said, I don't want to kill you. I said, I actually don't want to kill you. I said, because you guys have done such a good job in your friendship, and we've been watching this. I actually feel like I'm taking, even though it was a very surreal and weird thing. I actually feel like I am destroying your friendship. I have to do it. It's a horror movie. Blood gotta fly. Knives gotta, slice or whatever it is. We had no knife, but I felt genuinely upset, and not upset, but I felt kind of sad.
Right.
And it dawned on me when you said that too, Chad. You're like, I wanted to see more of them kind of together. I was kind of sad that they were this, that way. I actually take that as a compliment, because it means that we, in our very short runtime, we did such a good job at developing these characters to a point where you actually wanted to see more. You cared about their dynamic, and that you wish you could have seen more. Seen more. And if we had more money and this had been a 90-minute movie, you would have got that. Maybe you would have got a scene where the girls are up together, walking down the hall or something like that, talking to each other. I mean, maybe we would have been able to do that. Yeah. But in a 42-minute runtime on a 6-day shoot, we gotta kind of have to, move along as best we could. But if you feel sad that they went, I would rather you feel that than thank God they went. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
no,
if I had to choose,
Right.
I take it as a compliment.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels like all the girls have known each other, not just the characters, but just the girls as actresses have known each other since junior high or something. It felt very natural and real. And it's these guys have been friends for a very long time. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, and the ad-libbing scenes help too. There's 3 ad-libbing scenes as far as I remember. The tracking shot on the Dana Dolly as we're opening the dining room scene. The jib shot where the camera is tracking in, and again, it's not a zoom. I mean, it's a zoom, but it's not a digital zoom. We're actually pushing the camera in on the door as it opens. The camera's on a jib on track and then of course as they come in and they're like, oh, I didn't realize it's gonna be so cold out. You want some tea? Yeah, I want some. And they're talking over each other. That's ad-libbed, and it's great. It gives a sense of reality to it because we talk over each other all the time.
Exactly.
So it really feels natural. And then the other ad-lib moment, it might have been more than this, but I think there were only 3, is when Shelby and Malika are walking up the stairs. That was ad-libbed as well. And so that was, it was great. I think they did such a tremendous job. Very believable. I mean, there's a few people out there have been like, oh, it fucking sucked. But I'm like, it didn't suck. It's so hard. It's so hard to take people seriously when it's I can understand someone's like, I didn't really like the movie. No, this guy was crap. I'm like, Halloween 5 is crap. Okay. But yeah, no, I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said in the review, that scene, I pointed out when they're talking over each other, and I mentioned Rob Zombie's Halloween, and I was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't mention this. But like Daniel Harris said, when they were walking together, they would do the same thing. They would talk over each other, and Rob Zombie was like, I can't do that. We can't really make out what everyone's saying. Mm-hmm. I said that was such a small touch, but it made their friendship feel so real because we do that shit all the time. We always talk over each other. So it's a small thing that I loved so much about it.
And to give credit to Rob Zombie, which I don't often do, but to give him credit, he is right. Actually, is that 9 times out of 10, you want to have that clean audio, and so you can have the control to make it sound like people are talking over each other or not. It's all about having that control, and if you don't have that control, it can cause problems. But it's circumstantial. It depends on the scene, what's happening. The scene that you're talking about in Rob Zombie's Halloween just may have been a scene where that just wasn't practical. You know what I mean? It's I get what you guys are doing, but we can't have you doing that here. Because there would have been scenes like that in It's Me, Billy, where if they started to do that, we would have been like, whoa, no, we can't have you doing that here. You know what I mean? So he's not wrong though. He's not wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny, did you have any other questions?
I don't know. I told you not to come back to me.
Okay, that was an hour ago. Calm down.
I wish I was. Okay.
Chad.
No, I don't have any more questions right now.
All right, I have one.
Sure.
Talk about the challenges that you and Bruce had when you're trying to catch us, the audience, up on nearly 50 years worth of history in a very short amount of time, because that seems like it would have been really hard to do. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Character.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have such a short period of time to bring somebody up to speed, you're doing it through exposition.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important, obviously film is a show don't tell medium. And if we had a larger budget and this was a feature length movie of 90 minutes or 2 hours or something like that, then a lot of what you maybe heard through the exposition, we could have shown in a flashback or something to that degree. But how you make exposition feel not so telly is the nuances of the performances, the motivations of the characters. So why are these characters having this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just to turn to the audience and say, oh, in case you didn't know, you know what I mean? Or is it motivated by the character's emotions and actions?
Mm-hmm.
And Sam is going through a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the opening of the scene, of the film. It's no secret now, because we talked about this. The opening of the scene is there's two things happening there. There's a meta thing that's happening there that is very to tip to the hat to Bruce and I's denial of the Black Christmas house. You hear the character of Emma say, I mean, we didn't even get past the intercom. Maybe if they don't care, Emma. They can smell anyone who's going to mention it. Very Bruce and Dave getting denied from the Black Christmas house. But that's not the only thing that's happening there. And it's important that it wasn't the only thing that's happening there. It's all about Sam's character. Mm-hmm. And that the movie opens in we are thrust into a moment. And the girls are on the side of the road. There's tension immediately. We don't know what's happened. They've pulled over for some reason. Maybe the sorority house is just down the street. There's likely a conversation, an outburst, or a fight that has just happened. Not like a raging fight where, there's, flying fists and things like that, but there's something's happened. Things are tense. Mm-hmm. And it's all about Sam's denial. And we understand very quickly that Sam is denied access to the house. She says, what did she say? She says, I'm sorry. My grandma used to talk about it all the time. I just wish we'd gotten in. My grandma used to talk about it all the time. That denial is denying Sam the ability to grieve that part of her grandmother. So, because her grandma used to talk about it all the time. And so it becomes kind of like Sam wanted to get that closure. She wanted to go in, see the house, get that part of closure for her. And she was denied access to that. It's about character. Again, it's about her, what she's going through emotionally. When we see Sam on the porch and she's out there and she's just kind of by herself and she's talking, Sam might seem like a bit of a downer through some of this movie, because she is. Mm-hmm. She's going through a lot emotionally. She's not upbeat. She tries to be upbeat a little bit. We see kind of a spark come to life a bit at the dining room table, and then it kind of comes back again when she's talking, about her grandma. But she's going through a lot. And the conversation she has with Emma on the porch, again, it's motivated by her emotions. It's motivated by the things that she is going through, and we're bringing the audience up to speed in that moment. So we find out that clearly Sam has been through a lot. Her mother has died, likely of alcoholism. Sam doesn't want to end up like her. As soon as you hear her say that, some people might assume that she means her grandma. Right. But it doesn't mean that. She means her mother. She doesn't want to end up like her mother, because the stress of living in the shadow of her grandmother drove her mother to alcohol. Right. And she doesn't want the stress. I don't think... people can assume this, but we weren't necessarily intending that Sam is on the cusp of alcoholism. Sam just means that the stress of losing her mother, the stress of losing her grandmother, quote unquote, the stress of a lot of things that she's going through right now, she doesn't want to end up like her mother. And therefore, I got to start taking care of myself. I don't want to end up like her. Emma says, you're not like her. You're like your grandma.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And her grandmother was very independent and very strong. And as soon as Emma says that, you see a little smirk on Sam's face. You know what I mean? And then Sam goes into sort of talking about, all I remember is all the fighting and things like that. It's really about Sam and the emotions that she's gone through and what she's been feeling. And it gives you insight, a window into that gap between 1974 and 2021. But you have to be very careful because you don't want it to feel exposition-y, overly exposition-y, where what's the point? Why are these characters having this conversation? You know, like I don't get it. So it's done through character motivation, and Sam and the emotion of Sam. We are learning a lot about the past through Sam's experience growing up with her mother and her grandmother.
Yeah, it's almost like since she wasn't there, she still has the mental scars, I guess, having grown up listening to all those stories and listening to her mom, who, you know, like you said, might have become a alcoholic and all this stuff. So she's okay. That makes a little bit more sense as to why she's
because she's, you know, and it's very like when we're first introduced to Sam, right? It's the opening of the movie is this beautiful shout out to Adam Gamble of Rise Up Pictures, our drone pilot who just got all the drone shots, incredible shots of the landscape and the house and everything. Such a talented dude. And the opening shot, of course, is of the car on the side of the road. And then we cut to this beautiful tracking shot, and then we cut in. And the first person we see is Sam, and she's sitting there and she looks miserable because she is miserable. She's upset. She's going through a lot, and we don't know what's happened before. We're like thrust into this moment. Right. You know, there could be a movie before this movie. Do you know what I mean? There could be. But we're thrust into this moment, and she's upset. And we do see moments where she comes to life a bit, you know, like at, you know, the dining room table, and, you know, we can thank the microwave. We see lots of, you know, tiny bits of Sam, but our direction to Victoria was, you're going through a lot. There's a lot you're going through. And the reason why we can't get into specifics is because it's part of the larger picture. People, there is an arc that is, you know, that we want, but we have to do it in stages, right? You know, so certainly, yes, she does, you know, if anybody says, you know, Victoria kind of played it kind of down. Well, don't blame Victoria, blame us, because that's what we told her to do. We told her to play it like you're going through a lot. There's a lot of emotions there. You're dealing with a lot. You see it on the porch too. You know, you see that emotion, you know, and what she's going through. And I mean, her mom's gone, her grandma's gone. So she thinks, you know, who knows what kind of relationship she has with her dad. We don't think it's we didn't allude to it being bad or anything, but does she have a lot of friends? Does she not? You know, I mean, it's tough on young girls, especially, you know, losing, you know, growing up in that. You know what I mean? I think it's very clear, at least I hope it is, that she had a stronger, closer relationship with her grandmother than she did her own mother, though.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty evident.
Yes, definitely.
Dave, your partner in crime, is in the chat. Bruce Dale!
Bruce, my man! Bruce!
Co-director, co-writer, co-producer, Bruce Dale.
Bruce!
Says, thanks for featuring...
a question for me.
Thank you, everyone. No problem, Bruce.
Thanks for tuning in, Bruce. Bruce is I'm not saying this to kiss his ass. Bruce is amazing. The great thing about working with Bruce is that we bring two different personalities, two different types of approaches to things. And I always laugh because his desktop on his computer is spotless. It's clean, it's organized. He knows where everything is. Bruce is that kind of guy. Me, my desktop is an absolute disaster and messy and things all over the place, but I know where everything is. And if you were to touch something, I would know it was missing. And Bruce, there was one time he was over and he looked at my desktop and he's like, oh my God. I think it gave him anxiety. But I love Bruce, obviously, you know, 30 years of friendship and you know, to be able to work on a film like this together is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's awesome.
That's another question that I have. Yeah, clearly you guys have both known each other for a long time, and you have a clear vision of what you guys wanted to do with this movie. But your personalities are like almost too different, but still the same in a lot of ways. But I could see the contrast between you and Bruce. So what was that like working like that together?
I think I'm a little more animated than Bruce. I think I always have been. Although growing up, Bruce and I used to do a lot of funny. He's a funny guy. Bruce can be pretty funny. He can do a lot of funny voices. I'm telling you, there's a side to Bruce you may not know. But certainly, yeah, I think I'm the more animated one. And Bruce is the more kind of cool one, maybe in the back. But we certainly work together well, and we don't always agree. I mean, we don't always agree. There's things we don't agree on. We have our own visions and our own ideas of things. But the good thing with Bruce is that because we've known each other for so long, we have no issues pulling each other aside and saying, "Hey, can I talk to you for a moment? You know, I want to hash this out with you. I want to hash that out with you." And that's great. That's because the last thing I want is to think he's on board with something, that he's not. And the last thing he wants is to think that I'm on board with something that I'm not. You know what I mean? You got to be able to, you have to be able to have the confidence to be able to speak to each other on things you don't agree with. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know?
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything else?
Well, one thing I wanted to address, the film is doing very well, and I think but there has been criticism, and that's fair. I mean, with every art form you put out there, there's always going to be some. One of the criticisms I see, though, and it's a fair one. It's a fair one. I get it, totally fair. Is why didn't she turn on the lights? The hell is she not doing? Turn on the lights. How do you walk through a horror movie and turn on the lights? And you know what? And it's fair. It's a fair one, 100%. We didn't, and some people said, you could have had the power out. You could have had a moment where maybe, the fuse box didn't work or something. And that's all fair. It's all valid. Although we wouldn't be the first horror movie to do that, to have somebody walking around a house in the dark and not think to turn on the lights. That seems to be a trope that we definitely bought into. It happens in Halloween, folks, just so you know. But it's a fair critique. But we wanted to, and it's not that you can't create mood and atmosphere with lights on. You absolutely can, 100%. But we made the creative decision to keep the lights off. We made the choice to have her walk through the home. And I think, to be honest with you, I think the only, and this will give some people something to gnaw on a bit anyway. I think the only part where you may think, well, this is a little strange, you would have turned on the lights by now, which I totally understand.
Sure.
But I think when Victoria hears and this is my opinion, of course, people can have their own opinions, but I think, and Bruce would agree, I think, I don't want to speak for Bruce if he's still in the chat, but I think he would agree because we've had long talks about this. When Victoria wakes up and she hears the knock and she's walking through the house, I think it's important to remember that this is a house she's very familiar with.
Right.
So although it is, there's an old saying where characters don't necessarily know they're in horror movies. Mm-hmm. So that, when a character is walking through the house, it's a house she's familiar with. She knows it very well. She spent years and years there, summers there. She's probably walked through that house in the dark many times as a kid to get up to go to the bathroom, to get up to, who knows what, right? So the music, of course, plays into what's going to happen? You know what I mean? But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that she might hear something, get up, Justine, bang, bang, bang. What's that? And go down the stairs to the door, open the door without turning on the lights, even going into the room, answer the phone, not turn on, then racing up the stairs, not turning on the lights. Where I think you could make an argument where maybe she could have turned on the lights now would be after the discovery of the blood and this and that. And maybe we need to kind of turn on some lights. And I understand that. And, I totally understand if that's something that people don't like, but we wanted to keep the mood there. We wanted to keep the atmosphere there. And we wanted to, hopefully in Victoria's performance, you get more lost in the performance and in the events of what's going on. And maybe you're able to suspend your disbelief just a little bit, and just enjoy the ride. Is what we're hoping. But it is a fair critique. It is a trope that we were buying into, but we certainly weren't the only film that has done it. Even Laurie Strode, when she goes over to the Wallace house to investigate, she doesn't turn on a light. She walks in, Annie, Bob. It's like, why aren't you turning on a light? What's going on? She's walking around. She's not turning on a light. Mm-hmm. So, it's you see it a lot, but I get it. And the other thing too is people have often asked, what phone is Billy using to call the phone in the attic? I don't get it. Maybe we were too subtle with this, and that's fair. It's a fair critique, but we were trying to allude to the fact that it is likely Sam's cell phone. Her cell phone went missing. She raced into her room. She's going like this in the sheet. She's like, "Where is it?" She dumps her purse, and she's going like this. And you actually hear her say, "Where is it?" Now, maybe we could have had her say, "Where's my phone?" But do you say that? Where's my phone? You know what I mean? It felt, I don't think people actually say, "Where's my phone?" Because you know what you're actually, "Where's my phone?" to me sounded like it was for the audience. Exactly. Yes. "Where's my phone?" sounded like it would be too much for the audience. And I think just "where is it?" Myself and Bruce agreed, just kind of say, "Where is it?" Because you're not going to say, "Where's my phone?" You're going to say, "Where is it?" And because she was lying there with her phone and her earbuds in, and that's where it was left, she quickly goes over there. And if you pay attention, she goes like this with the sheets and lifts up the pillow, and then she grabs her purse and she's like, "Where is it?" You know what I mean? And she's frantic. So we were very subtle with it. Certainly that's what we were trying to allude to, that when there's a call made, I mean, Billy's got the phone. Clearly it's gone. The rotary phone in the living room is also gone all of a sudden. It's like, where the hell is that? And the ornaments there, clearly there's some gaslighting going on. They're fucking with her. But we didn't show Billy in the rafters on the cell phone because we thought that was a strange visual. And we didn't want to show him typing on the phone because we thought that was a strange visual. And somebody had said, "How did he use the cell phone because of the pass key?" And I'm like, and I responded by saying, "Well, who's to say there's a pass key? My phone doesn't have a pass key on it." You know what I mean? Like, what? I mean, now some people do lock their phones. Right. You can have a cell phone without a pass key on it. Yeah. So, so that was the intention was it was likely her cell phone that he is calling from at that moment. And that phone is supposed to be the same phone from the original film. That phone number that you see on the dial, if you watch the original film, there's a moment in the movie where they are tapping the sorority house phone. And the guy says, he calls the operator and he says, "Hi, operator. Yeah, I'm calling from 556-1164, or well, whatever it is he says, I forget now. And that's the number you see on the phone. So that's what we were drawing your attention to, was that phone in the attic is the sorority house phone. That's the number you hear in the original film. Although her mother told her to get rid of it, she
never did. Right.
She never did.
I love that.
Wow.
Dave,
but that's a deep cut for Black Christmas fans.
I say, yeah, that was really good. Like, I knew there was something with the phone. I'm like, is that the original phone? I didn't recognize the number though off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, no, and most people wouldn't, because you never see it in the original film. It's a throwaway line that you hear. Bill Graham, I think his name is. He's the one that comes in with John Saxon and they're investigating the house. And then he goes over to the phone and he picks it up and he dials the operator. He's like, "Yeah, operator, I'm calling," because he's about to tap the phone. And he says that number. He says those digits. And when I watched, I thought, I'm going to use that and I'm going to see how many people pick it up. So I just put it on the front of the phone. And that phone is the phone we used is a late 60s olive green rotary phone, same one that was in the original film.
Okay. So Dave, you posted something on your social medias earlier, a meme that was from Jeremy Stone. I have to pull this up because when I read it, all I did was picture you and Chad back and forth.
Yeah.
You guys want to do the voices and read
this? Well, this is funny because this is shout out to Jeremy Stone, who's a viewer of mine. And he sent this meme to me today, and I just thought it was funny. He even said the typo in the 1, 2, 3, 4, in the fifth square is actually on purpose, because it says there aren't Netflix. Obviously, they aren't.
Okay.
He says it's on purpose. I don't know. Maybe Jeremy's covering. But this is funny. You know, it's because it plays into a lot of sort of the messages I've gotten from people that are like, "What the fuck does that mean?" I just think it's funny, really, really funny. And the last bit just had me in stitches.
Oh my God!
I'm going into that basement myself. I'm coming back with answers.
Coming back with answers. Yeah, that was cold. I had to share that at least.
That's amazing. Yeah. My first thought was Chad. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
It's funny stuff.
It's
funny stuff.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, like, you guys got anything else?
I think it might have earned that 3.3. No,
Oh!
no, I think I'll have to give it a higher, possibly a 4 after all the clarity. I do appreciate that. I'm gonna have to watch it a couple more times.
I appreciate that.
But
you know what? Yeah, we were very, Bruce and I, we totally understand if it confuses people, because there are going to be people that are going to watch it who who've never watched me, who've never watched this show or my show or anybody else's show, who has no context, who's going to watch the movie and is going to go, that's it? I guess that's it. You know what I mean? I get, well, that's really dumb. That doesn't make, there's going to be people that are going to do that. But those are the risks you take, because we wanted to treat our audiences, and maybe in certain moments we could have been a bit more clear. Maybe, you know, like the cell phone thing. Maybe we should have had her say, "Where's my cell phone? Oh my God, I hope he doesn't have it." I mean, maybe we could have said something like, we would never have done that. But
damn it, Billy.
Damn it, Billy. Do you have my cell phone? Is he going to call me in the attic? You know, and then, you know, whatever the case is. But we wanted to treat our audience with that they were mature, and we wanted to sort of treat them with clues. So there are things to figure out, like the unicorn brooch, you know, on Agnes's lapel. And then when Billy grabs the letter opener, there's some people that think it's scissors. There's some people that think it's a knife. But nobody that I've seen has been able to pick up that it's a unicorn. And because it's so fast, he grabs it so fast. But if you pause it and you look at it, it's a unicorn letter opener, which Maleka took home. We asked everybody, do you want to take anything home from the set? And Maleka's like, I'm taking the thing that killed me home from the set. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so she took that home. And Brian, I think, took the doll. We all signed the doll, and he took the doll home. I have a great photo I'm going to post on social media of Brian leaving the house with the doll in his backpack. It's great. But to your point, Chad, I mean, look, you watched it, you evaluated it, you judged it as it was presented. And, I don't know you very well, but you strike me as a smart film guy. Right. And there could be things that just didn't work for you. And that's fair. That's totally fair. And not all films should rely on the filmmakers having to come out and explain everything. You know what I mean? So, but the hard part is that the story's not done. So it's that kind of thing where we're sort of caught between that rock and a hard place, where maybe when you watch it all together, it would be like watching, The Force Awakens or something. Be like, what the hell's Luke doing on him? I don't get it's like, well, hang on, unfortunately they didn't do very well afterwards, but it's that kind of thing where, but of course with that, there's more to come. With ours, sometimes people won't. But if there are things you don't like in it, there are things you don't like in it. I mean, that's just the reality of putting your movie out there. Could we have been a bit more clear with some certain things? Maybe. But we wanted to treat our audience, we wanted to not be so, we wanted the film to have a sense of maturity about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not your everyday horror movie. We wanted people to care about these characters, the relationships to feel real. And that's what we tried to do. But all criticism is fair.
I'll be honest. I wanted it to end with the shot of Emma in the back.
A lot of people do.
And
that
then it cuts to black, and I think I have to watch it again. You can hear Sam a little bit when it's all black on the screen, right?
Well, if you think you can, that's fine.
You hear something like it's not completely silent.
It's not. It cuts to black. We finish off with Carol of the Bells. Hits a crescendo, and then you hear a door opening, whatever.
Right.
And by the way, and I totally understand why some people might think that is another location, like somewhere else.
I did.
No, that is actually supposed to be. It is supposed to be, and it actually is the basement of that house.
Oh, okay.
That actually is the real basement of that house.
Okay. But yeah, and I mean this in the utmost respect, but to me, everything that came after that moment kind of felt like a post-credit scene-ish a little bit. Like, oh, here's the end. Here's the little tag to hopefully get you excited for coming up more.
100% it was. And Bruce and I, if he's still watching, he's probably having a laugh right now. We actually had contemplated, where do we put that scene?
Really?
Do we put it at the end of the credits? Do we put it as a mid-credit scene? Or do we end it and then people think it's ending and then we put it where we put it? And the reason why, and this is all me actually, Bruce, probably if he'd, he wanted it at the end, at the very end. The reason why we didn't, to be fair, it was me that fought for where we had it. Okay. And the reason for that is based on analytics. And 90% of the people don't watch credits.
They'll check out.
And if you're watching, and I know this based on my stats, I can tell when people check out. And people check out. Most people are not watching the It's Me Billy credits right now. I can tell you that. I can tell you that because when it hits 38 minutes, right, which is where the credits begin, there's a dip, like a sharp dip that goes down.
Oh yeah.
And so people are not watching. Now, maybe if you're in, your name is in there, maybe you'll watch it, but most people aren't. So people would miss that completely. It's a Marvel movie. You expect that. So you sit and you wait for it. But with something like this, I don't think it would have hurt if we had it at the end, but I really wanted people to not miss it. Right. I didn't want people to miss that, Grandma. And I wanted people to see it and be like, "What?"
And it's not exactly, you could say, "Hey, stick around to the end credits," because then they'll be like, "Well, obviously something leaves it open." Right? I get
to
that.
black. I
understand that. Right?
Don't go anywhere, folks. No, we didn't want to do that. So that's why it's there. But you're right. In its feeling of that extension, it is that feeling. You are absolutely correct. Oh, Bruce is back.
The scene to be post-credit scene. All right.
Yeah.
It's Dave's fault.
That is correct. Yeah. Blame me. That's right. Yeah. But I looked at the analytics now, and it's fascinating. There is a sharp decline.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching. And really, if it's not a Marvel film, and you're in the theater, do you watch the credits? No. You know what I mean? If you're at home, I tend to because I'm interested in certain roles.
Music and stuff.
Depends on the music. Might depend on how much of a film person you are. Right. But the general movie-going audience, which is the vast majority of people who are watching films, don't stick around for the credits. And that shows. And so I wanted it to be something where it's kind of a false ending. But there are a lot of people that have said, I wish it would have ended there. I wish it would have ended with just the bag on the head.
Right.
And I've said many times, if we didn't have more to tell, that is exactly what
that would have been. That's completely
100%.
Shot.
100%. That's exactly. And we've talked about that. But we have a little more.
All right. So Dave, you cool with 30 more minutes hanging out?
100%. Yep.
All right. So 30 more minutes. We'll open it up to the chat and then Destiny chat if you guys have anything else that comes to your mind. Go ahead.
Skin cookies.
Skin cookies. Under the rib.
I just said that to see Destiny's face. Under the rib.
Oh, I did want to ask an update just for the people who committed to the Indiegogo. Updates on the perks. When can people expect those? And is there any? Go ahead. And then any possibilities for people to maybe purchase a Blu-ray who didn't get a chance to?
Yes. So Bruce and I have to talk about that. We want to sort of evaluate where we are. We're going to be getting together in the very near future to start that process in terms of building to start the perks process and getting the perks ordered and out to everybody. So that is something we're just kind of taking a breather week here to kind of let the film sit and do these interviews and all that kind of stuff and whatnot. So that's something that, but we are definitely going to be doing that in the very near future for sure. And people, there's a distinct possibility that people will be able to get a Blu-ray as well. We just have to figure out the logistics of that.
There you go. Let's see. Frank Riker had a question way earlier. He says, did you and Bruce decide the deaths based on Billy's age and what he would have done in the original Black Christmas, or were there deaths that looked good on paper but not achievable? That's a good question.
No, I think Bruce can chime in here if he can. I think the deaths were always consistent. There was a role reversal at one point. But in terms of who died, how, but the death was, again, it's a short film. So there's only so much you can do, and it's not a Friday the 13th movie. It's not an Elm Street film. It's not a blood, guts and gore movie. It's Black Christmas and it's the original. Right. So it's very much theater of the mind, psychological. And so it was always going to be that. And, you know, some people have said that Justine's death disturbed them. And we said, well, good, because it should. And that was the idea, was to see, but you're not seeing anything. You're not seeing blood. You're not seeing gore. It's the power of suggestion through audio, sound, and character. You care about this girl and you don't want her to die. And if you didn't care about her, you wouldn't have cared about the moment. And you wouldn't have cared about this girl in the attic, you know, crying her eyes out over her dead friend in this, spoiler alert, rocking chair. I think if you haven't seen it by now, I don't think you care. But no, there wasn't an idea that we had. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ideas we've had of how to present the deaths and things like that. But in a short film with such a short runtime and a short schedule, we didn't have too much time to get too crazily creative. Again, if we had a studio backing and this was a Netflix series and, you know, we were shooting an episode for like, you know, $500,000 or something, and we had like 3 weeks to shoot it, well, yeah, maybe we could, you know, throw somebody out the attic window, but but you know, we have to be careful within our means. So
to me, what really added more to that scene is when Billy is kind of creeping in the room and he's kind of watching her sleep for a second, and then she looks around, he's nowhere to be seen, and then she thinks everything's like that. Really added a lot to that.
Yeah, that slow push in was great. And if you listen carefully, if you listen very carefully, you can hear little creaks in the floor during that moment as Billy's approaching.
All right.
Yeah, you can, if you listen very carefully. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do love that scene because I'm like, oh my God, because you know it's coming.
That's right.
Getting closer, I'm like, oh my God, please just like get it over with, because like I know she's about to die.
That's it.
I love
it. Not in the rib.
Stab her in the rib.
I said just not in the rib.
Stab her in the rib.
Right through the skin.
Oh.
Yeah, Bruce is right. He says it here. We talked a lot about the death scenes and made decisions that were in alignment with the original 1974 film, but we wanted to bring our own vision to it. Everything. Yeah, 100%. Bruce is bang on. We and again, if we had a bigger budget and this was a feature-length film, we might have had, you know, a couple more girls to kill off too. I mean, you know, or maybe even a dude, maybe even a guy. Get a guy in there too. You know, but we had to be decisive.
Yeah.
Flamethrower Fluff wants to know: was there anything in the script for one reason or another that you couldn't include in the film?
In the original, there was a couple little things that, but nothing major. No, I'm going to say no. I mean, you know, I talked earlier about earlier drafts, of course, like the diner scene and Sam going up to the Black Christmas house, obviously, which didn't end up in the film. But in the final draft of the script, no, it was pretty tight. There was not a lot of fat to trim. You know, people have asked, are there bloopers? Are there deleted scenes? Not really. Now we do have a BTS that will be on the Blu-ray that will be actually almost an hour long. Wow. So you'll be able to watch the behind the scenes, the making of, and how the crew works and all that kind of stuff. But it's actually longer than the movie. But there is no.
So was our review.
Yeah. There you go. But there's not a lot of. There wasn't a lot of fat to trim. So I would say everything that was in the script was in the movie, and that's primarily because we were so prepared. Our crew was so proficient and professional, and the ladies were so prepared. I mean, they weren't, you know, they're professionals. They weren't flubbing their lines and weren't having to do, you know, 30 takes for one scene or anything like that. There was just, I mean, there were some takes like Shelby's take at the dinner table. So the medium shot of Shelby playing Emma, doing her lines, that was one take. Wow. So we didn't have to, so, you know, we would shoot Emma doing all her lines, then we would shoot Malika doing all her lines, and then we would shoot Victoria doing all her lines. And that's primarily because we had one camera. It was not a 2-camera setup. But when we shot Shelby's lines, Bruce and I turned to each other and were like, that's great. Let's move on. You know, it was great. And there were many moments that were like that. Now, there were a lot of moments that we also shot multiple takes of things, but it was usually because we had taken so long to set up and the girls nailed it. And we thought, well, let's just get a couple for safety. You know what I mean? And sometimes you want those options to be able to pick and choose and mix and match. But the girls were so prepared. I mean, they were like lightning. It was amazing.
Yeah, you could. It definitely shows on film that everybody in the crew and the cast brought their A game. Like they all brought it. So, Mega Movies wants to know, what process do you use when directing? I know several directors have many processes and methods.
That's a great question. So Bruce and I have two different approaches to it. I'm somebody that I'm a very visual person because I'm an actor. I'm an actor myself.
Right.
So I tend to approach directing from an acting standpoint, which can be very good. But it all depends on the actor too, right? It's like teaching, right? You know, some teachers, there are certain students that learn so well, that are visual learners or that are auditory learners, or there are some teachers you're like, he's the best teacher I've ever had, right? Because you're like him or her, you know what I mean? And then somebody else in the class may be struggling to keep up because they don't jive, you know what I mean? The great thing about myself and Bruce is that we both are we're both very good communicators. We're very good visionaries. We know what we want. We jive well. We have slightly different approaches to how we sort of relay that information, but I think we complement each other well. So I tend to speak to actors like an actor. You know, I tend to try to get them to visualize and picture the moment. And I never try to line read, because as an actor, I don't want people to line read to me. As a voice actor, I've had experience with that. Sometimes I've had to be like, hey, you know, don't tell me how to say it. Just tell me what you want from me. I'm the actor that, you know, is going to interpret that. So sometimes if an actor is struggling and maybe I'm struggling to articulate it, I might do a quick sort of example. But I never try to do that. I try to do that as minimally as possible, because you want the actor's performance and their talent, their expertise to come through. It's their interpretation of what you are telling them is going on. But I'm very much an actor, so sometimes it's hard for me to it's that balance. Whereas Bruce, in his real life, is a manager and teaches in the film industry, and he's incredible at it. I mean, he's a phenomenal teacher, a phenomenal communicator. So he's very good at that side of it, as relaying that information in a very articulate fashion. So we complement each other very well. In that regard, I don't think there's a conscious process that I have. I just will notice something and go over to the actor and talk to them, ask them how they're feeling, and sort of get insight into what they're thinking, and then whether or not that jives with what I, you know, am feeling as well. So it's interesting. It's a process, but it's interesting. Yeah, it's fun. And certainly this was my first time doing this at this level. Right. So it was very interesting. I remember there was a moment where, I mean, again, these are all professionals. It's what they do. I mean, they've gone on to shoot other. I mean, I follow, you know, all these people on Instagram, and I'm constantly seeing all the work they've gone on to do since. Mm-hmm. The crew, you know, and everybody. And there was a moment when we were shooting the porch scene and we were outside, and Bruce and I would sometimes take turns on calling a scene or directing a certain part of a scene. And I was doing this particular shot. I think it was of Sam. And I said, cut. And the crew all looked at me, you know, and they're all like, and because they're waiting for me to say, that was great, let's move on, or let's do one more. And it was just a surreal moment, you know, to have the entire, you know, these professionals that do this all the time, that, you know, and I'm the newbie, but yet I'm the co-leader. You know what I mean? So it's that straight, it's not like this, obviously. I can only imagine what this would be like, but it would be like, you know, you're directing like Harrison Ford for the first time, you know, and then he kind of turns to you to like, well, are we done? You're like, I don't know, are we? You know, you know, it's like that kind of thing where it was a surreal moment, but it was a really cool moment, you know, because it gave me a sense of confidence after that as well. So it was fun. And I think the more that I do it, the better and better that I will become. And I know the better and better that Bruce will become as well.
Absolutely. Chad, you want to read that one?
Important question, Dave from Good Reel. Middle brownie or edge brownie? Billy, I know, is an edge brownie.
You have to, okay, I saw this the other night with Shelby's interview. You have to tell me, I don't get it. I'm 40. I don't get it. I don't know if it's an age thing or what. Tell me, what is this?
Basically, when you have a pan of brownies, do you take the brownie that's in the corner of the pan, or do you grab a brownie from the middle, the one that's usually more softer?
Well, I think I'm probably going to go in the middle.
Middle brownie, all right.
I think I need that gooey, melting chocolate that just comes out of your mouth kind of thing. I think is what I tend to do.
I want brownie. Okay, Brett did tell me earlier. He's like, I am going to ask the question. I was like, it's an important question. You have to ask. And I was like, damn, I just want brownies.
We have to know.
All I want now is just fucking brownies.
You just want brownies now.
I mean, I'll eat the edge brownie if that's all that's left. But if I have an option between edge and middle, I'm going middle. So, all my questions pertain to a sequel if it would be made. I guess the least spoiler thing I can ask is, what would you call it? You can lie, Dave.
Sorry, say again.
What would you call the follow up if you were,
Oh, I don't know. Billy, it's me.
Billy,
That's good.
It's me, Billy. Billy, it's me. Billy,
Dude,
it's me. Another thing I wanted to mention too, about the directing, is that for me too, I'm a very visual learner when it comes to film. So I am always thinking about. And I think Bruce is like this too. I think he's like this too, because this is one of the things that we definitely jived both on during the development process and the writing process. We both were visualizing shots and angles and how to approach a scene from a directing standpoint, in terms of the where the camera is going to be placed, where the camera is going as well, which is why you do see a lot of tracking shots and a lot of jib shots in our film. I think that's one area where we tend to jive a lot the same on, and it became very apparent to me in the development process. Especially, we love talking about that kind of thing, about where's the camera placed, where is it going, what's the shot, is it medium, is it close up, is it low, is it jib, is it dolly track? We're always telling the story not just through the characters but through the lens, telling it through the movement of the camera. That's one thing I think. I don't know if he's in the chat still because I can't see the chat, but that's one thing that I think we both jive on well, and an approach from a director standpoint.
Steve Merlot, who is working on a fan film of his own, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film, says, "Please don't call it It's Me, Agnes."
Oh, damn! I was gonna call it Me, Agnes.
That was the one.
It's Me, Agnes. No, it's not. I don't think that's what it's gonna be called, Steve. I have no idea. What it's gonna be called. We don't know yet. It may just be called Skin Cookies. I don't know.
It's pretty attached to Dude, Where's My Cell Phone? I like that one.
Dude, Where's My Cell Phone?
Yeah.
Call it that. Oh, there's Bruce there. So he still is in the chat.
Yeah, he says, yes, we totally approach things in the same way, telling the story through the lens.
Very cool. Yeah, no, Bruce, yeah, I'm glad he's here tonight. I didn't get a chance to tell him that I was going to be on. He's probably like, why didn't you tell me you were going to be on? I'm sorry, Bruce. I've been so busy. Yeah, and guys, anytime you want to bring, I don't want to speak for him, but if you ever wanted to bring Bruce on your show alone or with me or whatever, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he'd be happy to do that as well, because he's a rocking dude. So and he's got experience that I have experience that he doesn't have. He has experience that I don't have. So you get that both sides, which is great. But no, he's right. We both approach. We're very visual artists. He really is a visual artist because he's an artist and he paints and draws. But when it comes to filmmaking, we're always talking about shots and how do we tell the story through the lens. So that is definitely where we differ in our directing styles. That's definitely a common area where we are the same.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that too, because I know, because I watch a show and stuff like that. I know you were talking about, working on the shot list together. Right. It seemed like that was going on for a long time. So how long did it take till you guys settled on all the shots you were going to shoot?
A few months. I mean, it was a few months, it's but that's also primarily because we you know, we have full-time jobs. So I'm a professional voice actor. That's my day-to-day job. I have the YouTube channel, but I wouldn't say that's my job, but that's what I do to, you know, keep you guys entertained and happy. And obviously we wouldn't have been able to do the movie if it wasn't for my YouTube channel, for God's sakes. And Bruce obviously is a working professional in the film industry. So, you know, we had to get together in the evenings, on weekends. I'd go over to his place. He'd come over here. And we would hammer down the shot list. And that was the first time I'd done shot lists before in college, way back in the day. But nothing like this. I mean, this was such a detailed shot list. And I'm telling you, man, it's a pain. It's hard. It's tedious. It's monotonous, but it makes all the world of a difference when you're on set. When you get to that set, you are not figuring out how to shoot something.
You know exactly what you want.
You know exactly what now that doesn't mean that things don't pop up that you may want to change. Like there's a shot that actually wasn't in the shot list. And it's one of my favorite shots in the movie. And I think personally, I mean, this is the co-director saying this, so take this with a grain of salt. I really should let the audience, you know, decide. But for me, it will always be one of the most iconic shots of this film, which is the shot of Victoria looking up the stairs, basted in moonlight. And that was not in the shot list. And it happened because we had just finished shooting Victoria at the bottom of the stairs, and she was about to ascend up the stairs. And I think we had because as you know, when you're shooting a movie, you're not necessarily shooting in order. So we had just finished shooting Victoria coming down the stairs, right? Crying, "Oh my God, what's going on? What's going on?" You know, out the door. And I just noticed the way our crew had the light set up outside with this moonlight coming in. I turned to Bruce and I turned to Greg and I said, "I know we're going to shoot this, you know, a few more times, but before we break for lunch, which is at like 2:00 in the morning, I said, can we get this shot?" I said, because there's just something about Victoria entering frame, turning around, looking up this, and the moonlight just casting on her face. It's one of my favorite shots of the whole movie. I think if this was a Hollywood film, it is something that you would be seeing plastered on posters and billboards and bus stops and fucking shit. I fell in love with it. We shot it twice. Greg fell in love with it. Bruce fell in love. We're like, oh yeah, we gotta get that. So sometimes that happens. And if there's time to get certain shots like that, and it doesn't, you know, it didn't require the crew going outside, taking an hour to rearrange the lights. It was already there. It was set up for that. Sometimes those things will happen, but you need to be prepared when especially, look, if you're working with your buddies, maybe they don't give a shit. But when you're working with people that do this, that a professional crew, and you're shooting on a $60,000 budget, Canadian, by the way, which is about 45,000 US, you know, and you are doing this as professionally as you can within the realm of this size of a budget, you can't, and you're the leaders, you can't show up going, "Well, so you can't do that." People are counting on you. People are depending on you. And if you ever want to work with these professionals again, you better make sure you're prepared, because they want to have a good time. They want to have a good shoot. So everything from the, you know, where you put them up, how you treat them, what the food is like, you know, you feed them well, feed your crew well, because you want to keep them happy, because they're working long hours. And if the food is garbage and the food is crap, you know, I mean, I don't mean you have to, you know, it's like a gourmet meal, but, you know, you don't want a McDonald's at every night. You know what I mean? Or for every meal, you know, spend a little bit more, save up, budget for a caterer, not a wedding caterer, but just like what we did. We catered through Cafe Deluxe in Ottawa. They made great wraps and sandwiches and snacks. And they had like great, they had like these little meals, like, soups and macaroni and cheese but I mean, just, you know, cafe stuff, but good stuff, and always fresh. You know, it wasn't Subway and McDonald's every time, you know what I mean? And so it was, yeah, you want to keep your crew happy, so you got to be as prepared as possible. Anyway, I know I'm rambling. A couple of months. It took, I would say, 2 or 3 months. Bruce can chime in if he's still there, but I think it's about 2 or 3 months. And then, of course, you want to share that with your DP, because your DP is going to be shooting it. And it's the shot list that the DP really pays attention to. He doesn't really care what the actors are saying. That's not him. If the actors suck and the movie sucks, he doesn't have to worry about that. He's focusing on the shot list. What are we shooting? How are we shooting it? What is the lighting? What do you guys want? So that's why we got together with Greg on a number of occasions. And we even went up to the location a month before our shoot with Greg and Nas are key grip, and Nikita are gaffer, because they wanted to see the location, they wanted to get a sense of the space, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
All right, yeah, Bruce just said, yeah, about 2 to 3 months and sharing with Greg. Yeah, Dave and Bruce together both did a show the other night over on Dave's channel, just under 3 hours long. So there's plenty of stuff in that as well. And I'll have the link for that down below.
I tend to talk for some reason. I don't know.
It's Me Billy is currently, I think, at 18,000 views last I looked, which is
I think it's over 18,000 now, which is great.
That's amazing. Congratulations to all you guys. The whole
and
team.
it's got, I think it's got 1.6 thousand thumbs up and like only 40 something thumbs down. I think it's like a 97% positive, and which is great. Like I said, it's not without its criticism, and some of it's fair. I mean, some of it I see and I'm like, yeah, I get that. I totally get it. I totally understand. Some of the criticism, I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with that. And I'm not talking about the ones that Chad said, but certain ones where I'm like, no, I don't think you understand sort of what's going on. You know what I mean? But certainly there is some that are fair, and no film is without it. You know, and it's easy to pick apart movies and to be nitpicky. But I think the good news is that by and large, I think people, when they watch it, they really enjoy it. They like what we've done, especially if you're a fan of the original. They appreciate doing a U-turn, going back and starting again. But starting again in a really sort of Black Christmassy cool way. And hopefully, if we get a chance to make the follow-up, some of these unanswered questions that are perplexing people and maybe even turning them to maybe dislike the movie more than they would, will be able to answer these lingering questions, you know, some big, some small, that will make you go, oh, because we know where we're going. It's just, you know, when you don't have studio backing, you gotta make it in increments. So
yeah, because while I love the film, there were a few things in there I was like, I don't know about this, but now that you explained that it was supposed to be episodic, you have a plan, there is more coming, I do feel a lot better.
Well, that's just it too, you know, Chris. I mean, we couldn't tell people it was episodic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then it would tip people off that there was going to be some sort of lingering.
And I completely understand that. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not that kind of cliffhanger, but it would definitely tip people off to expect more. And we didn't want that. Like, we didn't want to prepare people, get ready, you know? So as soon as people saw it, we were like, okay, now we got to tell people, it's okay, don't worry, we're not actually just ending it there. You know?
So Dave, we're getting ready to about wrap this up. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and doing this and making us feel better about some of our issues with it.
Thank you for having me on. And, you know, I want people out there to know, you know, I didn't come on the show today to persuade anybody to change their minds.
Right.
You know, we feel about films how we feel, and they resonate with us. They either do or they don't. But sometimes what's really cool about being, you know, at least, you know, an independent filmmaker is you know, I mean, as a fan, I would love to pick the brain of Spielberg, Nolan, Scorsese, you know, so I go, I don't get what, you know, why did they do that? Or, you know, why did they, and you don't have that access to do that. But what's really cool about this is there's an opportunity for you guys as viewers and us as filmmakers to be able to maybe shed some light onto certain things that might perplex you, or certain things, and maybe allow the viewer to have a different appreciation or to understand sort of maybe what's happening. But that doesn't mean that they're going to change their minds. I mean, the chips fall where they may, but it's an opportunity that I think that we love to take advantage of. You know, so I appreciate you having me on, and the fact that Chad is now kind of like, oh, it's not bad. It's okay. It's not bad. That's really cool. Because I would have been totally okay if you had said, I see what you're saying, but I don't know. I'm just not. I don't know. I would have been totally fine with that. Totally. Because
that's the great thing about being a horror fan is, like, you know, I've mentioned it before on past, you know, you're allowed to change your opinion, and sometimes, you know, just a little bit of clarity does that for you, and then you go back and watch it and you're like, okay, so yeah, I am going to take that and I'm going to go watch it again, and, you know, I think I'll connect with it more.
That's awesome. And that's awesome to see. And again, too, you know, we understand that Bruce and I were we were subtle. I mean, we were very subtle in a lot of the things that there's a lot of things that are there, but we were, and maybe, and it's a fair critique, maybe in certain instances, maybe we might have been a little too subtle. Maybe we could have, amped it up a little bit. But we just wanted to treat the movie maturely and not have it be one of those, I don't care about these characters. I don't care about what they're saying. We really wanted to just let the audience discover those things, and maybe through repeat watches, there's that opportunity. But so that's cool to hear for sure. For sure.
Right. Do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about or plug or anything like that? Like Two Dudes, McRae Live, anything?
Yeah. So McRae Live obviously is off this week. But Two Dudes is going to be on Monday. We're coming back on Monday, and I think the plan is to watch It's Me, Billy, actually.
Oh.
Tony wants to do that, which is great. And of course, we don't have to worry about copyright issues with that. I don't think I will show the movie though, still, because I don't want people to watch the movie through that. I want them to go watch the movie.
Still got to get those views up.
That's it. But I think what I might do is maybe push up the audio a little bit, so the audio is kind of in the background, so maybe you hear it a smidge. Maybe do something like that. But that's what it was Tony's idea. I thought that was a great idea to come back with. So that's happening Monday night, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because obviously I'm in the Eastern Time Zone. And then Dylan's New Nightmare obviously is on the horizon. If the I know Destiny's a big Miko Hughes.
Hey, that's Chad's fault, okay? Me and Chad have this ongoing thing about Miko Hughes.
I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to.
He was looking for a bathroom, I'm pretty sure.
He wasn't looking for a bathroom.
Or an exit.
He was looking
one of
for
the
the
two.
exit. It was the exit. It wasn't the bathroom.
So Destiny. So let me get this straight. Destiny was at a convention.
I was
with Miko Hughes, and Miko Hughes looked in your direction, and you guys made eye contact. Okay. Did you go over and say hello?
I did not. No.
Have you ever spoken to the man?
I did not. No.
Well, I will tell him you say hello.
He followed me on my Instagram, on my horror one and my personal one. And so I sent it to Chad, and I was like, hey, Chad, guess what? And I sent him that, and I won. Because I think that shows that we did make eye contact.
Okay.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I know. It's riveting. It's like, whoa.
Well, it's maybe he followed you. I mean, maybe.
Is my boyfriend very excited about that? No. But I'm still very happy, and I still think I won.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to slice him to death, but that's the way it is. No, that's not a spoiler, by the way. No, but that's on the horizon. Obviously, being here in Toronto, Canada, and the shoot happening in Phoenix, Arizona, the border's been a big issue. Cecil of the Horror Show did launch another Indiegogo campaign the other day, just to help make up some extra funds that they were unable to raise during the first Indiegogo campaign in 2019. So if you go to Indiegogo and type in Dylan's New Nightmare, that should pop up. It's live now for 30 days. They just want to make some extra for the shoot. And if all goes well, and if the borders can open, the borders are still not open, but if the borders can open, hopefully maybe we can get Dylan's New Nightmare to camera in the fall, maybe October, something like that. But we'll see. I know myself and Cecil and Miko are going to be doing something on either my channel or his channel or something like that. I think maybe the plan is to watch Dylan's New Nightmare. I think the three of us, but I can't remember the original, obviously. So there's that obviously, and then Bruce and I will be getting together to get those to start the perks, that process, and maybe even throw around some thoughts on the follow up to it's Me, Billy. But we're not Right. We're not ready to, don't expect an Indiegogo campaign next month for, It's Me, Billy, chapter 2 or something. I mean, we're not there yet. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that have to be done for that. It needs to enter development, and there needs to be a script. So,
I'm sure you guys want time to breathe after all the hard work.
Yeah, for sure.
So we need, just give us some time. We'll get there.
Yep. 100%. That's right.
Bruce says, "One love, everyone. Thank you for all the support on the film. Great show. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it."
Thank you, Bruce. And I'm so glad Bruce was able to tune in, because Bruce is such a busy dude that sometimes he can't. And he's just so busy and working and doing the Bruce thing. And he's I love him to death. He's one of the hard, and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up his ass. I've known him for 30 years. I don't need to do this. He's one of the hardest working men I've ever met in my life. And so I like, seriously, the fact that he was able to tune in tonight is awesome, because I was afraid I was going to have to tell him after the fact.
That is awesome.
That's great.
Well, again, thanks for taking time out of your day. And,
thank you very much.
Destiny, Chad,
no problem,
closing
guys.
thoughts?
Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you. Wait, can
Thank
you do
you.
one thing? Can
Sure.
you say sorry? Can you say sorry?
Sorry.
No, not like that.
Oh, you mean like a Canadian?
Yes.
Oh, you mean like a Canadian?
Yes.
You mean like sorry?
Oh, I love it.
Sorry, I'm
Anytime I hear
sorry.
a Canadian
But
say
you know what
sorry.
though, as a voice actor, I work a lot with American clients, obviously, and so my abouts are pretty darn good, because now to be fair, although there is the stereotype of a boot and oot, nobody says that up here. Nobody says a boot and oot. A boot is something you put on your foot. Okay, it's a boot. But what you will hear up here though sometimes is you will hear what's more like a boat. Like you might hear that, or we don't. It's kind of like, I don't know. Hey, Dave, what time is it? It's about 7. You know what I mean? Like you might kind of hear it like that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 40 years old. I've never heard anybody ever go, "Hey, what's going on? It's a boot, oot." I've never heard anybody sound like that. That seems like something that's like a cartoon and like Family Guy or something. We always sound like we're like 8 bricks shy of load or something. I just don't get it. I don't understand. But yeah, no, there are. We definitely say sorry as opposed to sorry. And you will hear about. But I've mastered my abouts, because I have to say that a lot in voiceover. I remember being at the 40th anniversary Halloween convention in Pasadena, and I was at the Fright Rags table, and I was buying a hoodie, and I picked up a hoodie or something, and a bunch fell on the ground. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Right. And the guy behind the counter was like, "You're Canadian, aren't you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I am." And he goes, "It's only because I am." And he said, "And I never hear it." He says, "I never hear sorry. I'm always hearing sorry." And so I thought, "Oh, dude, yeah, Canadian." It was funny. It was funny. It was great. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Absolutely.
Destiny, Chad.
Awkward. No.
We should end with an awkward pause.
Awkward pause.
Attacking my tripod right now.
Now,
So.
see, now it's definitely time to go. So
Yeah, she's always got issues.
Mhm.
Well, how about I exit out? I will exit out, and then you guys can wrap up on your own and kind
Sounds
of that kind of thing. Okay,
Okay.
guys, thank you very much for having
Thank you,
me.
Dave.
And I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
Hi, Dave.
All right, let's get on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
I love it.
Ah, no,
There's
fuck that.
a podcast, Nightmare on Film Street. They're Canadian, but I didn't know it until one day the girl, she said, "Sorry," and I was like, "Oh my god, how did I not know they're Canadian?" I love hearing the story. That's beautiful.
I love when a Canadian goes, "Ah, fuck, buddy.
sorry.
Ah, fuck, buddy." I like that. That's my favorite. Ah, fuck, buddy.
Okay.
All right.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Very fun.
Was very fun.
I mean, while we're still here, you guys got anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Tomorrow, Friday, part 2
Yeah.
on here with Camp Blood. Josh is gonna be on here.
Mhm.
And then
I know, I
Creeping
gotta
It
add
Real
that.
Monday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 15th, I will be on Matt's channel for
Nice.
Jaws 3D. Ooh, very excited for that. We have Be Kind, Please Rewind coming up. I don't know the day, but it's Friday 13th.
Shocker.
Shush. I at least remember it up here. I I want to say that's probably it besides keeping it real. And then next Friday, I'll finally make my appearance for the Friday 13th watch-alongs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys pretty much already said what I had. Tomorrow, me and Chad are bringing Josh on for Friday Part 2. Monday, Creeping It Real. And then the next Friday after that, it'll be me, Destiny, and Matt for Friday Part 3. So, that was good timing on that.
I wish he was gone before I did that.
So, that's going to about do it for us, guys. Right?
Yes, I have Taco Bell just sitting over there looking at me.
Don't say Taco
And he
Bell.
was talking about food.
I
He said
know.
macaroni, and I was like, oh, my stomach was like rumbling.
I know. I got tacos on the way too.
Oh, you asshole. All right. We're getting out of here. I don't have the fucking outro video, so it's just going to end. So,
Turn salt.
Bye.
Do the Brit Brit.
Bye.
Do Brit Brit.
What?
Close with
What?
Brit Brit.
Oh,
That's
no.
Brit.
No, that's just too good for the
All right.
show. I'm sorry.
Well, that's it. Keep stirring,
stirring salt.
motherfuckers. Keep stirring salt. I love it. That's
Like
it. That's the new thing.
salt lamp. Lick
Salt
the
Right
bunch.
under the skin of the rib.
Ew.
I just skip of this rib. It really hurts.
Shut
All
up.
we'll get
I'm
on out.
sorry.
It
I'm not
does.
trying to
Ow.
be sensitive, but quit talking about your rib. I'm
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.